All right, so you're prepping for a plastic products assembler interview. Want to really nail it.
Of course. And we're diving into RoleCatcher's guides to help you do just that.
Yeah, think of it as your cheat sheet, you know, for this specific job.
Not just general interview tips.
Right.
Right.
So we'll be focusing on those common questions for plastic products assemblers, pulled straight from RoleCatcher's guide.
We'll sprinkle in some insights about the career path, too.
And how RoleCatcher can give you an extra edge, you know, with its AI.
Absolutely.
Okay, first question. Can you tell us about your experience with plastic products assembly? Seems pretty straightforward. But what are they really looking for?
They want to gauge your familiarity with the role itself.
Okay.
So if you have direct experience, fantastic. Be ready to share like specific examples of projects, you know, the tools you worked with, processes.
So those details that really demonstrate your expertise.
Yeah.
Okay. What if I don't have direct experience with plastic products assembly? Should I just be upfront about that?
Absolutely. Honesty is always best. But this is where you can highlight your transferable skills.
Okay.
So maybe you've worked in another type of assembly role, or you have experience with hand tools.
Oh, from a hobby or a previous job.
Yeah. The key is to connect the dots for the interviewer. Show how your past experience translates.
Into skills that make you successful as a plastic products assembler.
Right.
Okay. What kind of follow-up questions could come from this?
Be prepared to elaborate. Like on specific projects or challenges you faced. You know, the interviewer might dig deeper into how you solve problems.
Followed instructions.
Yeah, or how you maintain quality standards. Think of situations that highlight your precision
Okay.
and ability to work independently.
Let's give our listeners a sample response they can build on.
Something like, while my experience is primarily in mention your relevant previous role, I've developed strong skills in mention transferable skills, like using hand tools, following detailed instructions, or working with precision. I'm a fast learner and eager to apply these skills to plastic products assembly.
I like that. It shows you're eager to learn. And adapt. All right, next question. Can you describe your understanding of safety procedures in a manufacturing setting? Clearly, they're looking for someone who prioritizes safety.
Absolutely. They want to know that you take safety seriously and understand the protocols specific to manufacturing.
Which could be different from other work environments.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Generic safety tips won't cut it here.
So have you had any specific safety training? Are you familiar with OSHA regulations?
Yeah. Be ready to speak to those points.
Now, if the company lists in these specific safety protocols in the job description, I should definitely mention those too, right?
Definitely. Yeah, it shows you've done your homework.
Okay.
You're already thinking about how you'll fit in.
To their workplace culture.
It demonstrates your commitment to safety.
From the get-go, what kind of follow-up questions could come from this one?
They might ask about a time you identified a safety hazard and how you addressed it. Or they might ask about your experience with specific safety equipment, like PPE, personal protective equipment.
They really want to see that you're proactive
Yeah.
and knowledgeable about maintaining a safe work environment. All right. Let's give our listener a solid response for this one.
You could say, I'm committed to maintaining a safe work environment for myself and everyone around me. I've mention any relevant safety training, like OSHA 10, and I'm familiar with specific safety protocols from the job description. I always prioritize wearing the appropriate PPE, and I'm proactive about identifying and reporting potential hazards.
That's a strong answer.
Okay.
On to question number 3. How do you ensure that products meet quality standards during assembly? This one's all about attention to detail, taking pride in your work.
It is. They want to see that you understand the importance of quality control, and you have a systematic approach to it.
Yeah, okay.
So think about your process, for checking your work, catching errors.
Ensuring consistency.
Yeah, this is a great place to use the STAR method.
Right, the STAR method. Can you remind our listener how that works?
Sure. So you start by describing a specific situation where you had to ensure product quality. Then you explain the task you were responsible for, the actions you took to achieve that quality, and the positive result you achieved. It just helps structure your answer in a way that's clear and memorable.
For the interviewer, what kind of follow-up questions could they ask about quality control?
They might ask you to elaborate on, specific quality control techniques you mentioned, or they might ask about your experience using measuring tools, or other equipment to ensure accuracy.
Okay.
So think about how you've used tools or visual inspection to maintain high standards.
Okay. Let's give our listener a sample SIR method answer for this one.
Here's a good example. In my previous role assembling mention a specific product, I noticed a slight discrepancy in the alignment of some components. I immediately stopped the assembly line, consulted the technical specifications, and used a caliper to double-check the measurements. I adjusted the components and alerted my supervisor to prevent similar issues. This resulted in a significant reduction in product defects.
That really demonstrates your commitment to quality. Now, I know RoleCatcher can help you practice answers like this and refine them even further.
Exactly. RoleCatcher's AI can analyze your responses and provide feedback.
Just like a personal coach.
It can help you identify areas for improvement, make your answers even stronger.
That's amazing. Okay. On to question number 4. Can you give an example of a time when you had to troubleshoot an issue during the assembly process? This one seems to be all about problem-solving skills.
You got it. They want to see that you can think critically, identify the root cause of a problem, and come up with effective solutions. And once again, the STAR method is your friend.
So I'd choose a specific example where I encountered a challenging problem during assembly. Describe the steps I took to troubleshoot it. And highlight the positive outcome.
Exactly. Focus on those steps you took to identify the problem, the solutions you considered, how you ultimately resolved the issue. They're looking for someone who can think on their feet, take initiative.
What about potential follow-up questions for this one?
They might ask you to walk through your thought process, explaining why you chose a particular solution or how you ruled out other options. They might also ask about a time you had to get creative to solve a problem, showing your resourcefulness.
Okay, so for our listener, let's give them a sample STAR method response for this problem-solving question.
How about this? While assembling a complex plastic component, I noticed the pieces weren't fitting together properly. I double-checked the assembly instructions and realized there was a slight error in the diagram. I alerted my supervisor, and we worked together to identify the correct assembly sequence. We then updated the instructions to prevent future errors. This streamlined the process for everyone.
I like how that example shows that you're a team player and you take initiative. Okay, let's move on to question number 5. How do you prioritize your tasks when assembling plastic products? This sounds like it's all about time management and organization.
Precisely. They want to see that you can effectively manage your workload, meet deadlines, and stay on track. So think about your system for prioritization. Do you use a to-do list, a scheduling app?
How do you break down large projects into smaller steps? What should I highlight in my response?
Emphasize your ability to stay focused, manage your time, and meet production goals. Show that you have a system for staying organized, even under pressure.
And what about potential follow-up questions?
They might ask about a time you juggled multiple deadlines or had to adjust your priorities, based on changing circumstances. It's all about showcasing your flexibility and your ability to adapt in a fast-paced environment.
Okay, let's give our listener a sample response that showcases those time management skills.
Here's one. I prioritize tasks by reviewing the production schedule and identifying the most urgent orders. Then I create a daily to-do list, breaking down larger tasks into smaller steps. I'm also comfortable using scheduling apps to stay organized. I always strive to meet deadlines without sacrificing quality.
That's a great example. Now, before we move on to the next question, I want to touch on something we mentioned earlier, RoleCatcher's AI.
It's really remarkable technology. Imagine having a super-powered research assistant, helping you prepare for every step of the job search.
So it analyzes job descriptions, but how does that actually help me?
It's like this. You upload your CV to RoleCatcher, and then you search for specific jobs. The AI compares your CV to each job description and gives you a score based on how well your skills and experience align with what the employer is looking for.
So I can see exactly where I need to improve my CV to make it stronger.
You got it. It helps you identify keywords and tailor your language to make your application stand out.
So it's like having a personal editor for your CV.
That's incredibly helpful, but it goes beyond just the CV, right?
Absolutely. RoleCatcher has a vast library of practice interview questions. And get this, you can record yourself answering them and get AI-powered feedback.
Wow.
It analyzes your responses, tone, pacing.
Even body language.
Just like a virtual coach.
That's amazing. So it's not just about what I say, but how I say it.
Exactly. It gives you personalized tips on how to improve, maybe speaking more clearly, making better eye contact.
Projecting more confidence.
Yeah. It can be a game changer in boosting your interview skills.
I can see how valuable that would be. Okay. Let's get back to those interview questions. Question number 6. Can you explain how you use hand tools and equipment in plastic products assembly?
This one seems pretty straightforward.
It is, but don't underestimate its importance. They want to see that you're comfortable and competent with the tools of the trade.
Okay.
Be specific. Don't just say that you're comfortable using hand tools. Name the specific tools and describe how you've used them in a professional setting.
Should I mention safety precautions when talking about using tools?
Always. Yeah. Emphasize your commitment to safety by mentioning any relevant training or specific safety procedures you follow. It just reinforces your dedication to a safe work environment.
Okay, let's give our listener a sample response that showcases their practical skills and safety awareness.
How about this? I'm proficient in using a variety of hand tools and equipment, including list-specific tools mentioned in the job description. I'm also familiar with mention-specific safety protocols related to tool use. For example, when using a mention-specific tool, I always make sure to mention a specific safety precaution.
That's a great detailed answer.
Okay.
On to question number 7. Can you tell us about a time when you had to work in a team to complete a project? Teamwork. Classic interview question.
Absolutely. They want to see that you can collaborate effectively, communicate clearly, and contribute to a shared goal,
Be a team player. Once again, the STAR method is your go-to approach.
Yeah. For structuring your answer.
So I should choose a specific example of working in a team. Describe my role, the challenges we faced, and the positive outcome we achieved.
Yes. Highlight how you contributed to the team, how you communicated with your colleagues, and how you overcame obstacles to achieve success.
What kind of follow-up questions should I expect?
They might ask about your communication style. How you handle conflict within a team, or how you contribute to a positive team dynamic. So be ready to share specific examples that showcase your interpersonal skills.
And your ability to work collaboratively. Let's give our listener a sampled STAR method response for this teamwork question.
Here's a good one. In my previous role, our team was tasked with assembling a large-scale plastic display for a trade show. My role was to describe your specific contribution to the project. We encountered a few challenges, including mention a specific challenge and how the team overcame it. By working together and communicating effectively, we completed the project on time and to a high standard.
That's a great example of a teamwork success story. Okay, let's move on to question number 8. How do you maintain a clean and organized workspace during plastic products assembly? This one seems pretty simple.
It might seem basic, but it's crucial. A clean and organized workspace isn't just about appearances. It's about safety, efficiency, quality control. They want to see that you understand this connection.
So what are the key things to emphasize in my response?
Talk about your specific habits and routines. For maintaining a clean and organized workspace. Do you clean up as you go? Do you put tools away?
And you're finished.
Yeah. Do you have a system for organizing materials? Be specific and showcase your attention to detail.
Okay, what about potential follow-up questions?
They might ask about a time you had to work in a messy or disorganized environment and how you handled it. Or they might ask about your experience implementing or following 5S principles.
I'm not familiar with 5S principles. Should I research those?
It's worth understanding the basics. 5S is a methodology for workplace organization. It focuses on sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. Even if you haven't formally implemented 5S, you can talk about how you apply those principles.
In your work. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's give our listener a sample response that showcases those organizational skills.
Here's a good example. I believe a clean and organized workspace is essential for safety, efficiency, and quality. I always make sure to clean up after myself, put tools and materials away, and label everything clearly. I also try to follow the principles of sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain to maintain a consistently organized workspace.
That's a great answer. Now I'm realizing we've covered a lot of ground already, and we're only on question number 8.
We have.
Maybe this is a good place to pause. We can pick up with the remaining questions in part 2 of our deep dive.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
We'll also continue exploring more insights about the career path and how RoleCatcher's AI features can give you that extra advantage in your job search.
Right. Welcome back to our deep dive into preparing for your plastic products assembler interview.
We've tackled some common questions so far, but I'm curious to learn more about the actual work environment.
Yeah. RoleCatcher's Career Guide gives us some great insights into that.
Okay, so what's the typical setting like for a plastic products assembler?
Think manufacturing facilities, factories or production plants. where things are being made.
Okay, so not a quiet office job.
Not usually, no. The guide mentions you might be exposed to noise, dust, fumes.
Yeah.
So being comfortable in that type of environment is important.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those safety procedures we talked about earlier are even more critical in that setting.
Absolutely. Speaking of things to consider, let's get into some of the potential downsides of this career path. RoleCatcher's guide doesn't shy away from the cons, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it's good to have a realistic picture.
Exactly. One thing the guide mentions is the repetitive nature of the tasks.
Mm-hmm.
You're often doing the same thing over and over, which requires focus and attention to detail, but can be a challenge for some people.
I can see how that could get monotonous.
Yeah. And there's also the potential for physical strain.
Right.
You might be standing for long periods, using hand tools repetitively, or lifting heavier materials. Good physical stamina is definitely an asset.
In this role, are there any other downsides mentioned in the guide?
The guide mentions possible exposure to chemicals,
Okay.
which reinforces the importance of those safety protocols we discussed earlier.
Right, it's all about being informed and prepared.
Now, on a more positive note,
Yeah.
let's talk about the pros. What makes this career path rewarding?
I'm all ears.
Well, there's a real sense of accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
In building things with your hands, you get to see the tangible results of your efforts.
I can imagine that's quite rewarding.
It also requires a high level of skill and precision. You're using your dexterity, problem-solving abilities, attention to detail. It's a good balance, of mental and physical engagement.
And as we discussed earlier, there's the potential for career growth. You can learn new skills, specialize in certain areas, or even move into a supervisory role.
Right. So for someone who enjoys working with their hands and is motivated by seeing the results of their work, this could be a great fit.
And it's good to know that the demand for plastic products is generally stable. So there's potential for, steady employment.
Speaking of finding employment,
Yeah.
let's shift gears and talk about how RoleCatcher's AI can help you stand out.
In your job search, I'm fascinated by how AI can streamline the whole process. We talked earlier about how it analyzes job descriptions,
Right.
but I'd love to hear more about how that works in practice.
It's quite impressive. So let's say you upload your CV to RoleCatcher, and you start searching for plastic products assembler positions. The AI compares your CV to each job description and gives you a score based on how well your skills and experience align with what the employer is looking for.
So it's not just a general comparison, it's tailored to each specific job.
Exactly. And this helps you pinpoint areas where you might need to strengthen your CV.
Okay.
Maybe you need to add specific skills, quantify your achievements, or adjust the language to match the job description.
That takes the guesswork out of tailoring your CV.
Yeah, for each application.
That's amazing. And the AI goes beyond just identifying keywords.
It understands the context and nuances of language,
Okay.
ensuring your CV highlights the most relevant skills and experience for that role.
That's incredible. But it
Yes.
doesn't stop there, right? RoleCatcher can also help with the actual interview process.
Absolutely. Remember the library of practice interview questions we mentioned? You can actually record yourself answering those questions and get AI-powered feedback.
So it's like having a virtual interview coach.
Exactly. The AI analyzes your responses, including your tone of voice, pacing,
Even body language.
if you choose to do a video practice. And it provides personalized tips on how to improve. Maybe you need to speak more clearly, make better eye contact, or project more confidence.
Yeah, those are all such important aspects of a successful interview. It sounds like RoleCatcher can make a real difference.
In preparing for those tough questions.
Now, circling back to the career guide, there's a section on career stages.
Yeah, for plastic product assemblers, it outlines a typical progression.
From entry level to more senior positions.
Right.
Okay, what kind of responsibilities can someone just starting out expect?
They would likely handle basic assembly tasks.
Okay.
Fitting parts together, using hand tools, carefully following instructions. It's all about building a foundation.
Of skills and experience. And as they gain experience, how do those responsibilities evolve?
With time, they might take on more complex assemblies, operate more advanced machinery. Right.
Or even train new employees. It's a path of continuous learning.
So there's room for advancement, taking on more responsibility.
Absolutely. And as you progress, you might also take on leadership roles.
Right.
Like supervising a team or managing a production line. It depends on your individual goals and interests.
The guide also mentions alternative job titles, right?
Yes. So you might come across titles like assembly technician, production associate,
Okay.
or even plastic fabricator.
Yeah.
It's good to be familiar with these variations. When you're searching for jobs,
RoleCatcher's AI can probably help with searching for those different titles, too.
definitely, you can use those alternative titles as keywords in your job search on the platform,
Okay.
and the AI will help you find relevant opportunities.
So we've covered the work environment, the pros and cons, the career path,
Hmm.
and how RoleCatcher can be a real asset in the job search. What other advice would you give our listener as they prepare for their interview?
Researching the specific company you're interviewing with is always a good idea.
Look into their products, their values, their company culture.
Out there.
This will help you tailor your answers and ask insightful questions.
Right. It shows that you've taken the initiative
Mm-hmm.
to learn about the company and are genuinely interested.
And always come prepared with a few questions of your own.
Okay.
It demonstrates your engagement and gives you a chance to gather more information about the role and the company.
That's great advice. Is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind?
Most importantly, be confident and enthusiastic. Let your passion for this work shine through. A positive attitude and genuine interest can go a long way.
Before we wrap up part 2,
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to hear more about that employer matching feature you mentioned earlier.
It's a game changer. RoleCatcher has a database of employers
Mm-hmm.
who are actively using the platform to find candidates.
So if I opt in, employers can actually find me
Mm-hmm.
based on my skills and experience.
Exactly. It's like having a personalized headhunter.
Working for you.
This increases your visibility and could open doors to opportunities you might not have found otherwise.
That's amazing. So I'm not just applying for jobs, I'm also putting myself out there for employers to discover.
It's a proactive approach.
To the job search.
Now, in part 3, we'll tackle a few more of those challenging behavioral interview questions, focusing on scenarios that require you to think on your feet.
I'm ready for the challenge. We'll also share final tips and insights to help you nail that interview and land your dream job as a plastic products assembler.
Stay tuned for part 3.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We're in the home stretch of preparing you for that plastic products assembler interview.
You've got the knowledge, you've seen how RoleCatcher can help, and now it's time to tackle a few more of those tricky behavioral questions.
You know, the ones that really make you think on your feet?
Exactly. Let's start with this one. Describe a time you had to deal with a difficult coworker. How did you handle the situation?
Ooh, it's a tough one.
It is.
It's basically a test of your conflict resolution skills, right?
Yeah. It is. They want to see that you can remain professional, communicate effectively, and find ways to work together,
Even when there's tension.
Right.
How do you answer this without bad-mouthing your former coworker?
Focus on the actions you took to resolve the situation, not on the other person's flaws. Maybe you listened actively, tried to understand their perspective, or found a compromise.
What about situations where you just couldn't get along,
Mm-hmm.
no matter what you tried?
Honesty is key, but frame it positively. You could say something like, while we didn't always see eye to eye, I focused on maintaining a professional working relationship, and we were able to complete our tasks effectively.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, let's give our listener a sample response that they can adapt.
How about this? In a previous role, I had a coworker who was very critical of my work. Instead of getting defensive, I made an effort to understand their concerns and ask for specific feedback. This led to a more constructive dialogue, and we were able to improve the overall quality of our work.
Perfect. You've shown them you can handle conflict maturely and even turn it into a positive learning experience. Okay, next question. Tell me about a time you made a mistake at work. What did you learn from it?
Everyone makes mistakes. This question is about owning up to your errors, learning from them, and demonstrating growth.
So it's not about pretending to be perfect,
Right.
but about how you handle setbacks.
Exactly. Choose an example where you made a genuine mistake. Explain how you corrected it, and most importantly, what you learned and how you applied that learning to future situations.
What kind of follow-up questions might they ask?
They might ask about your approach to problem solving, how you handle pressure, or your ability to take responsibility for your actions.
Let's give our listener a sample response that showcases those qualities.
Here's one. Once, I accidentally mislabeled a batch of plastic components. I immediately reported the error to my supervisor, helped to identify and correct the mislabeled parts, and implemented a double-checking system to prevent similar errors in the future. This experience taught me the importance of attention to detail and the value of having a system in place to catch potential mistakes.
That's a great example of turning a mistake into a positive.
Mm-hmm.
You've shown accountability, problem-solving skills, and a commitment to continuous improvement.
Remember, it's not about being perfect,
Right.
but about how you learn and grow from your experiences. Okay, one last question. What are your salary expectations?
Ooh, the dreaded salary question. This one always makes people nervous.
I understand. It's important to go into the interview with a realistic salary range in mind.
How do you figure out what's realistic?
For a plastic products assembler,
Yeah.
do your research. Look at industry benchmarks, salary surveys, and websites like RoleCatcher, which often provides salary data for specific roles and locations. Consider your experience, your qualifications. You're worth it.
Right. Don't undervalue yourself. Is there a good way to phrase your response to this question?
You can frame it in a way that shows you're flexible and open to negotiation.
Okay, so let's give our listener a sample response for this tricky salary question.
How about this? Based on my research and experience, I'm targeting a salary range of mention your realistic range. However, I'm flexible and open to discussing this further, based on the specific responsibilities and benefits of the role.
That sounds great. You've given them a clear range, shown your flexibility, and emphasized that you're looking for the right fit overall. Well, that wraps up our final round of interview questions.
You've made it. You're well equipped to go out there and ace that interview.
Before we wrap up this deep dive completely, let's recap some key takeaways. First and foremost, preparation is key.
Knowing the role, understanding the industry, and anticipating the interviewer's expectations will give you a huge advantage.
And remember how RoleCatcher's AI tools can give you that extra edge. They can help you tailor your application, practice your answers, and stand out from other candidates.
Be confident, be enthusiastic, and let your passion for this work shine through.
You've got this. We're confident you'll impress them with your skills, your knowledge, and dedication.
Here's something to consider as you embark on your job search. With the increasing use of automation and manufacturing, how can you highlight your adaptability and willingness to learn new technologies? It's a valuable asset in today's evolving workplace.
That's an excellent point to ponder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of plastic products assembly.
It was our pleasure. Good luck with your interview. We're rooting for you.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.